Guys, are you ready? Because it's fair if you're not. It does seem like only yesterday that the domestic season ended, as is so often the case with this. But guys, it's time. It's the first summer football tournament since 2021, and the first tournament taking place is its normal scheduled time since 2018, believe it or not. It feels like there's one of these every summer. There's actually not. It's been a while. We're ready for the first host European Championships since 2016, because, of course, in 2020, which became 2021, but was still advertised as 2020, confusingly, it was hosted by everybody. And, guys, best of all, we're about to enter a sports tournament with no constant sports watching debate. It's not something we need to have every single game. Amazing. We don't need to feel guilty for liking football. FC24 has released their European special. 442 World Soccer, they have their specials out. Disappointingly, as we discussed beforehand, there's controversy around the sticker books, but here to join me to discuss it all, coming off having survived local elections coverage extensively with the Irish Examiner. It is the man I call up anytime we have to discuss any major sports story. It is the one, the only David Kent. Kento, how are you doing? You're still alive, and you're upset about this controversy. Bring our listeners through
Yeah,
this horrible affront you've had to deal with this week.
so you can picture it now, right? So we're recording this I need to check what date is. That's how tired I'm after the
It's
elections.
Wednesday, yeah.
Well, it's Wednesday. I covered the elections for the site over the weekend, and I was like, right, I'm going to now Tuesday on my day off, and I'll get a lovely Euro 2024 sticker book, like I do. Like my fiance has a famous photo of me in 2020 when lockdown kicked in, whereas like it's just me, a beard about this long, maybe hair all over the place, but I'm smiling happy because I got my panini sticker book. It's great, grand. Now I've got my day off. I'll relax. I'll open a few stickers, and I went in and there's no panini sticker book, and I'm like, what's happened? It's tops.
Travesty.
That's something that like the only tops I recognize is double top and darts.
Yeah.
There's no, no one remembers like, oh, what have you got a tops shiny? No, you get a panini sticker. It's disgraceful.
No, it's
Bringing it up
not
with Joe
okay.
Duffy tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
There you go.
what's the point of anything? Like,
Tops Panini, whoever's responsible for this, you've just pissed off one of Ireland's foremost journalists. So just so you know, the
and I'm
examiner's coming
angry
for you.
too.
The examiner's coming for you guys. Wait and see. This is the scandal. Nobody's reporting, but you heard it here first. When it takes over the airwaves, you heard it here first on page 180. Yeah, tops. We're not having this. It's not a Euros without
No,
Panini.
sorry, nothing against tops, but like, come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah, it's
panini.
not the same. It's not the
No,
same.
it's
No,
not.
there is. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We do have some breaking football news today. With the news that obviously I'm wearing this, getting into the football mood with my Man United hoodie. Eric Ten Hag staying by the looks of things. Did not look likely all throughout. What are your thoughts on this? It seems like the FA Cup actually did save him with the Guardian having broken just the day before the FA Cup, that no matter what the result, it would not be, which shows you their confidence levels in United actually winning. But what were your thoughts on Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe deciding to keep Ten Hag on? Is this deserve it? Has he done enough, or do you think they just had no options?
I just think that there's someone in Abbottstown in the FBI headquarters who've checked off another name off the potentials list. It was probably way far down the list, but checked it up and the same. I think the manner in which United won the FA Cup final meant that he kind of had to stay
Mm,
because he just tactically out masterclass Pep Guardiola. And look, we can talk about Pep's record and when like big games where he kind of decides to chase things up for some reason when he's under pressure. But the way he did it, the way he went about it, and like you have to think about it, it's got a major trophy in both of his years. United completely ravaged by injury last year. Now again, performance wise, still probably not great, and there's only a certain level of excuse you can get. But I think like at least with the FA Cup, he bought himself until Christmas in the new season.
mm, yeah,
And look, if they lose the first 5 or 6 games, he's gone anyway, so it's grand. If they come off, like he's got the summer now to take, he's got to get it done before the Euros is key as well. I feel.
mm,
Um, Look, the 5 or 6 weeks of Willie won't he, especially after that Guardian report, which really did split the fan base where it's like this is a disgrace. And they weren't talking about Ten Hag getting sacked; they were talking about the thing being leaked. They didn't care
yeah.
about Ten Hag getting sacked. They were like, "Oh, whatever, fine," because we're gonna get smashed by City anyway. But no, it was a funny 48 hours. But I think it's the right call, and I'm a neutral coming at it. You're obviously a diehard for United, and you love your own button. But I think coming from an outsider's view, the way he structured that FA Cup and the way he just completely outplayed City at their almost at their own game,
Mm.
um, was enough to, at least for me, earn him a little bit longer.
Yeah, I agree. And I've gone back and forth. I've kind of there've been plenty of times I've been calling for his head, and particularly the Crystal Palace result was kind of an all-time low. But you have to look at what he's done as well, and the fact that there's a few different factors at play here. So first off is if you look at the squad, it's Ten Hag's squad, and it's awkward to just cut from that because then you have someone else who's essentially you have to gut the squad, and there's a whole other job, and Ineos have to get in, they get their feet under the table and kind of deal with what they've got. And there's a lot of pressure on that as well, especially with the Euros, because you're not going to get a lot of business done during a Euros because a lot of the players are going to be away. So it kind of limits them there. I think they probably looked at the fact that Bayern were looking at Ten Hag and then had to settle for Vincent Company, and they're like, we wouldn't have Company. So like, is that kind of the area we're playing in? They looked at McKenna, obviously, who ended up deciding to re-sign with Ipswich rather than take a shot at a big job. So there's a lot of factors there, and I think it's kind of weak but deserved. I think if there were better candidates, if there was an obvious candidate, I don't think he'd still be here. So it's not necessarily an endorsement, a pat on the back. But I did really enjoy his first season with United. He had a lot to play. I think the injury thing that he quotes and the amount, I think it's a factor, but not an excuse because again, if you look at kind of what happened, even with the successful first season, we had a lot of injuries then, and it's because he was not rotating his team. He was playing Bruno Fernandes in every single big game, and that's going to end up happening. And you get to a point where, like we were against Palace, where I think Scott McTominay was a centre forward for a while, and we just had nobody left, and never mind the defense, which was absolutely shambolic. But then you also look at the FA Cup final. You look at kind of the players taking time. I compare it to, and this is just because it's two teams I follow, but in terms of celebrating and in terms of endorsing the manager, it was exactly what the Irish women's national team coming home from the World Cup wasn't with Vera Pauw, where all of the players are ignoring her. She's there and they're like, yes, she is a human who breathes and exists, and that's true, but saying no more, whereas the players are gathering around Ten Hag, insisting that he holds up the cup. There's a lot of buy-in that you could visibly see from the players there, and to risk upsetting that when you don't have a necessary obvious replacement nailed down there. And again, like, Pochettino, is that definitely going to work? Is Thomas Tuchel going to work? Tuchel doesn't work at any club. He's Jose Mourinho Mark II. He comes in, he has mid short-term success, and then he wrecks the team, like, because he just tires him out. So I think this was the best bad decision. I'm okay with him staying on and seeing what he can do. And I'm also okay with if the season starts and we're hearing more excuses from him, and we're seeing more players go down injured at a shocking rate. Eventually, he has to own that because it's happened in 3 seasons now. But yeah, again, best bad decision for me. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Kento, we've been doing this since 2018 now, with our old Paddy's New Yacht Show. We've been doing these previews. We've got a bit of a format nailed down. For anyone who's never listened to those shows and hasn't followed us that long, very simple. We're going to go through it group by group. We're going to go through kind of what we expect to happen in the group, and preview the teams and kind of give you our thoughts as well. Then we're going to kind of go into, and again, there's a reason we do it this way, because it's the way you have to kind of look at it, especially with the Euros. You have to map out, like, if you're going to do a tournament, do it right. And first thing I'd say is get Panini sticker books, but that's apparently no longer an option. But again, wall charts are very important in mapping out how you think a football tournament's going to go, because you don't know who's going to play who until you kind of map out how you think the teams are. So we're going to wall chart it as well and kind of map out high level who we think is going to get to the final and win, and then we're going to go into some bets as well. Obviously bet responsibly, guys, as well, and we'll always give that caution. When the fun stops, stop, I believe is the old catchphrase. I don't know if that's still the catchphrase, but yeah, it is something that we always want to call it. We are going to go into some bets at the end. If you are opposed to betting, don't worry, it's not a betting show like our old Paddy's New Yacht show is. We're going to talk about the football first and foremost, and then you can skip out at the end if that part's not for you. But we'll get into it group by group. We're going to start with Group A. consisting of Germany, Hungary, Scotland, and Switzerland. Germany, of course, hosting the tournament. We've got Julian Nagelsmann, 36-year-old manager. Depressing how he's younger than me. But he looks to become the first German manager to lead a successful home Euros campaign. Franz Beckenbauer was actually the most successful until then, reaching the semi-finals of Euro 88. Having replaced Hansi Flick to kind of stop a slide of three really underwhelming tournaments. They're kind of looking to emulate the summer marking of 2006 in Germany when Jurgen Klinsmann led a resurgent young German team to third place in the World Cup on home soil. You've got Tony Kroos kind of returning after 3 years to steady the ship amid a potential Ballon d'Or following obviously his Champions League win. They conceded a lot of goals in qualifying and used a lot of players, which kind of has question marks over the team. But then in March, they seemed to steady the ship a little bit with a decisive 2-0 win over France and beating the Netherlands. So maybe there's a new dawn happening here. In terms of Hungary, you've got essentially a one-man team. Dominic Szoboszlai is the kind of nucleus. The entire team runs around. They were unbeaten during qualifying. They were looking really, really good. And then they lost to Ireland somehow. So I don't know. It's a strange one. You've got Italian coach Marco Rossi, really popular there. He was given Hungarian citizenship and he's approaching his 7th year at the helm, having kind of turned them into a formidable force. The longest serving Hungarian coach since the 1960s and compared by many locally to Jurgen Klopp as well. Then you've got Scotland as well. And fun fact, okay? Can you name the players that have scored more than Scott McTominay scored in qualifying? Have a go and see if you can think of any players. So international players, Europe. So European, like who'd be kind of.
I know he got at least 4 because he got 2 against Spain and then he got a couple against Cyprus as well, I think. So I'm a funny feeling there's not going to be many up here.
Okay, who are you thinking? If I had to push you for names, think of high scoring players at the Euros. Top of the top. You don't have to overthink this too much.
I go Mbappe just because that's the automatic answer.
Mbappe's in there.
Phil
Yeah. Who's that?
Foden? No.
No, he's not.
Really?
Who's that? Kane is in there.
Kane?
Yeah. Ripped us
Pedri got a
asunder.
few for, yeah. No,
Ripped us asunder just last night.
Huh?
Ripped us asunder just last night.
Oh, jeez, do you think I thought about it? Do you think I watched that game? I was in Navan. Ronaldo, I'm guessing. I
Yeah.
didn't see João Felix, probably.
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And Lukaku as well. They're the only 4 players who scored more than Scott McTominay. John McGinn, of course, captain in Aston Villa. He's kind of the nucleus. He's Scotland's top scorer. He scored 17 under Steve Clarke. And obviously, again, you have Andy Robertson there as well. So it's kind of a golden generation for Scotland. And they've got a sneaky, resilient team. Kieran Tierney, Callum McGregor, Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Christie, and Billy Gilmore, making for a nice, exciting core mixed with kind of youth and experience. Steve Clarke has been 4 years in the job, qualified directly now for a tournament for the first time since 1998, of course, when they played England in the first round and in the top tier of the Nations League. The problem is a lot of the momentum that they had has kind of stalled recently, and they've had injuries like Lewis Ferguson and Nathan Patterson. And also, again, Scotland are, they're coming into this with a lot of hype, but when the underlying stats aren't really their friend, they've actually, their win over Spain gets a lot of highlights. That's actually the only win in 10 against opponents in the top 10 of FIFA rankings. So interesting times, and maybe a false dawn, or who knows, they can spring a surprise. We've seen it happen. And lastly, you've got Switzerland, who for many will not be the Switzerland you remember. They have a lot of the same names from the recent kind of golden era, and you're going to hear that a lot, but they have a bit of a crisis of confidence since that last disappointing World Cup. You may remember they lost 6-1 to Portugal in the round of 16. The same Portugal who shortly afterwards saw Ronaldo cry off the pitch, kind of leaving in disgrace. And they've only won 3 in the last 10, and those wins were against such minnows as Andorra, Estonia, and Ireland. We are minnows now. There's a lot of pressure on manager Murat Yakin, with speculation of a rift with Granit Xhaka. And again, Xhaka's currency has only been increased with that amazing season he's had kind of with Leverkusen. You've got the likes of Jan Sommer coming off an excellent kind of bounce back season at Inter, winning Serie A after a disappointing stint with Bayern. Shaqiri is aging, and it's not sure if he's actually going to be involved too much in the tournament. He's not a guaranteed starter, and a lot of the team runs through Burnley's Zeki Amdouni. So, yeah, again, kind of light on the ground. They also conceded 6 of 11 goals in qualifying after the 80th minute. So, again, this just paints a picture of a tiring team and a tiring generation, maybe. So, Germany, Hungary, Scotland, Switzerland, Kendo, how are you feeling about these teams, and what do you think is going to happen?
Like it is an interesting, particularly when you talk about the home nation, because previously home nations where you might not have had like completely all round football as Germany. So Poland, Ukraine, 2012, not massively like bought into the whole football situation. Whereas if you go to Germany, if you've ever been to a German Bundesliga game, it takes over their weekend completely.
Mm.
Then you look at it, you got Leverkusen, the entire eyes of Europe onto them until Atlanta did away with them, and then Real Madrid knocked them off as well, just to destroy any hopes of an unbeaten treble. But you know, an unbeaten double ain't too bad. So that had all the Europe watching them. Like you mentioned the entire legs of Switzerland. It's a bit different than Germany. They do have some old fellas like Neuer, Muller, Kroos, Gundogan. They're not going to be kind of at the next couple of tournaments after this, you feel, because they're mid to late 30s. They've only kind of got one more shot in them. And you're looking at it going, well, geez, what better way to go out on top, even if you come home and win your own tournament? Like, again, flip side of that, Wirtz, Musiala, even Kai Havertz. Like, imagine saying 2 years ago, do you know who's going to be one of the superstars in form coming into a European Championship? Kai Havertz. Like,
Yeah.
would have been laughed at. Like you said, kind of flip-flopping on form. Haven't lost in 2024, which, if you remember, my correct prediction for Euro 2021 was what got me into saying Italy, because they just kept winning.
Mm.
I'll come on to that in a few minutes. Scotland, nice to have an Ireland to relate to at these tournaments, because we don't qualify for them. The little team that might, like the little team that probably won't, but the little team that might. Like you said, like haven't been impressive form wise, but again, did beat Spain, and you can talk about kind of that being a fluke all you want in terms of like, oh well, they haven't really done much else apart from that, but that just shows to me that they have an identity that they buy into. Steve Clark, like it does remind me so much of Wales at 2016, where it's like Steve Clark was Chris Coleman. Chris Coleman could have been sacked 3 months into the job. When I think he lost 6-1 at home to someone, if I remember right, and then the fans were covering his head. Same, Steve Clark was similar a couple of years ago, where Scotland were like, "What are we doing here? We're not progressing." Stuck with it, and now look, like again, that identity where it's like we're Scotland, we don't really care. It's like Ireland, just well, the Ireland of old, I guess, Ireland of that kind of early '90s, where it's like, oh, who cares? We're Ireland, we'll do what we want. Hungary lost to Ireland next. Switzerland kind of like, come on, like,
Unbeaten in
you
qualifying.
can't expect me to take them seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Genuinely,
It's bad.
like. Switzerland does the only note I have them one of those annoying teams that seem to find a way to qualify consistently but never have a hope of winning. Also known as 2000 2014 England.
Yeah.
Like again, the older guys still a bit of quality, but again, like you said, tired, kind of a knackered old horse. I think this might be one of the groups where you don't see the third place team qualify.
Yeah, I agree. So you've got, like, for me, I've got Germany, Hungary, both going through. I've Scotland and Switzerland kind of limping out. I do think Hungary will bounce back. I think the Ireland was not so much a get right game as a lot of Ireland games are for these nations. It was more a get wrong game, and then like have the scare before the tournament. So I think they're going to bounce back with 6 points. Of Germany going through undefeated. Who've you got topping this? Topping this? If it's any two going through.
I mean, it's definitely Germany. Obviously, they're going 3 from 3. I do think Scotland kind of get they're gonna not have fun in the opening game. But
Mm.
then I reckon they do enough in the other two. Like you can talk like again, Soboslai, whatever, with Hungary. From what I saw, and that was pretty much it was very much close to their team that I'd imagine they're going to line out with in the Euros against Ireland the other week, and it was just like, how do you get outplayed by Adamida? No offense, to Adamida, Corkman, love him. Played for Celtic for 6 months
Mm.
and looked like prime Ronaldo and original Ronaldo against Hungary. So I got Germany and Scotland, and then I
Okay.
have Switzerland in thirds, but not going through.
Okay, so Hungary finishing bottom. That really hit you. Okay,
Sorry, like again,
interesting. It is
you can't
fair.
tell me that losing to Ireland is good form coming into a tournament.
Yeah, no, that is fair. That is fair. Interesting. Okay, big calls already. I've already one group in. I love it. Group B seems very familiar for a reason. It's basically Ireland's 2012 group, except with Albania instead of us. And good luck, Albania. I'll get them out of the way first and kind of discuss them. Like, they did make their first finals appearance in Euro 2016, and they had a relatively straightforward qualifying out of a weak group, but you can only beat what's in front of you. They do. Coach Savino kind of deputized under kind of heavyweight names, Roberto Mancini for Italy, Tito for Brazil, before short coaching stints with the likes of Leon and Corinthians. They have some star quality with Kirsten Alsani, the star at centre mid, and then you've got Elsie's Hijaz, who plays for Lazio. Then you've got Marash Kumbala, who plays for Sassuolo on loan from Roma. And then, of course, you might know Armando Broja, who was on loan at Fulham last season from Chelsea. They're all recognizable names. And they're kind of a team that's playing above the sum of its parts, but they're playing Spain, Italy, and Croatia. So let's move on. Let's talk about Spain, the team who in the Euros kind of looked promising, but not the full package yet. Now they come into this with some expectations after winning last year's Nations League. The loss to Scotland kind of was what I'm saying the Hungary loss to Ireland was, and it kind of, give them the scare at the right time, because there was a bit of a panic, but under coach Luis de la Fuente, Spain went on a run of 6 successive wins to qualify with 2 games to spare before beating Croatia in the Nations League final. It's a bit of a hipster squad, to be honest, as opposed to kind of the superstar-filled dream team that won 3 major finals back-to-back in the late noughties and early teensies. Rodri's a star now. While around them, you have the hotly tipped prospects like Barcelona's 16-year-old Lamine Yamal, and you've got Atletico's Nico Williams, while you've got Pedro. Pedri beat the clock in terms of injury, although Gavi misses out. They've also a lot of defensive stability in French-born pair, Robin Lenormand and Aymeric Laporte, while perennial under-the-radar overachiever Dani Carvajal will be following up his Champions League final appearance. And then, of course, up front, you've got the enigmatic in international tournaments, Alvaro Morata, who's going to captain the team, but they have a wealth of attacking experience to come off the bench and talent if needed. So you've got Moreno, you've got Joselu, the revival continues, Ferran Torres, and then you've got Oyarzabal from Sociedad. Croatia are an interesting one because they're a team who we always think of as a major finals team who've never really performed on a Euro stage since that unforgettable Euro 96 run. Until now, question mark, because you have Zako Dalic has built a kind of club-like familiarity within the side. He's hung on to a lot of the same core who made the 2018 World Cup final, like Luka Modric. Ivan Perisic beat the clock to make it here after having a lot of the season injured. He's the longest serving and most successful coach in Croatia's history since taking over in 2017. They have, look, there's not a lot to say around Croatia because they're so familiar. So the question really becomes, can they do it again, or is this the end of the road without much youth challenging the status quo? Because essentially you have players that Modric, Brozovic, Kovacic, Gvardiol. Gvardiol is one of the young guns, and he's not young. I think he's 27. So that's kind of the question Croatia have.
Young.
It is young, don't get me wrong, but it's not he's not this new superstar again. He was in
yourself now, 27, still young.
Hey, I'm 10 years ahead of you, pal. But let's talk Italy, Kento's favorite. Went out on a limb last time, and the defending champions, but they're not like the team you remember from 3 years ago, squeaking through qualifying on goal difference over Ukraine. Of course, they had the betting scandal, which cost them the likes of Sandro Tonali, who's now missing. But they're kind of facing a new regime under Luciano Spalletti, kind of calming the ship, having taken over deep into qualifying, following obviously his title-winning season at Napoli. Taking no bullshit. He's banned PlayStations from camp. He's unseated Ciro Immobile as kind of an automatic starter. So this is a very unknown quantity. They don't have kind of a system to speak of under Spalletti yet. He's kind of modeled Inter's successful kind of 3-5-2 with 2 wingbacks formations in recent friendlies, and he's favoring form over experience in terms of how he's positioning his teams, but we don't know how that's going to pan out. You have kind of an inexperienced core, lacking the stability of the likes of Chiellini and Bonucci, and relying heavily on that Inter Milan core, hence them kind of starting a lot of the same system. There's real uncertainty up front after an injury hit season for Federico Chiesa, and Scamacca, despite kind of showing that run of form to the end of the season, is out of form, was dropped for the March friendlies by Spalletti, meaning they may end up turning to Genoa's Matteo Retegui as kind of their talisman. on the other side, you do have some exciting talent. You have Federico Di Marco of Inter. He may be this kind of this year's Spinazzola type breakout at left back. And you've got kind of Riccardo Calafiori kind of basking in the Bologna afterglow after obviously they made the Champions League. Kento, very tough group to call because teams are coming in like at very different stages of development, but they're all at stages of development. No team is kind of hitting their peak here. How are you seeing this pan out?
One of the more exciting ones outside of Albania, but again, it is nice to have an Ireland to relate to at this tournament. Like you said, the exact group we had in Euro 2012, like they'll do well to beat our record of 3 straight losses and 1 goal. And there's my trivia question for you: who scored for us at Euro 2012?
It was no, it wasn't Brady. Um, no,
It's a
I'll be
real fun quiz
forever.
answer.
I'll be forever. I'll be forever. Go
Sean
on.
St. Ledger.
Yes. Oh man,
It was
Jesus.
in there
Oh,
somewhere. But like,
yeah. That just brought
yeah,
back the trauma of that tournament. Yeah, thanks
like
for
like I said,
that.
one goal, they'll be doing well to beat that.
Yeah.
But look, there's Silvino, I guess. So that'll be one where you cut him on the sideline. It's like, it's Silvino, and then that's all you're going to need to worry about. Like Croatia, same side that reached the World Cup final. No, could they drag themselves through? Absolutely. Like you mentioned, Modric, Perisic, Pasalic from Atlanta as well. Another good season for them. Guardiola, you wouldn't rule out an upset. It's just that kind of team and that kind of group togetherness that they've been for a while, where it's like, yeah, they've been on the like they haven't done it at the Euros, as you say, but they've been on the bright lights before, and they've given them good account of themselves. Italy, like the transition between when I called them correctly to win Euro 2021 and now is just mad. Their most experienced player in the panel is a 25-year-old goalkeeper, which says everything. They don't have a Casa de Merda, or Italian for shithouse, anymore. There's no Chiellini, there's no Bonucci. There's no one where you're looking at and going, if there's a player getting away like Bukayo Saka, there's no one that you could say he's going to grab him by the label and just drag him down like they did to win that tournament.
Yeah.
Again, it's very much transition. Spain, like again, like you mentioned, the potential is off the charts, but a lot of these kind of younger superstars, your Yamals, your Pedri, they're appearing at their first major tournament where it's like, well, maybe not with Lamal, but Pedri has had a shot before, and it's like the press attention that's now coming with that. This unbelievable talent that we've seen so many times from teams where it's like these golden generations that are on the way up. Saw it at Belgium famously. France have had a couple. I'm not going to pretend that Ireland never had one, but that kind of like late 90s, like late 90s, where it's like, oh,
Yeah,
we've
we
come to the
did.
World Cup, and now look what's coming through from the under 15s that won the
Yeah.
tournament, and kind of got there, I guess, in 2002, but less said about after that, the better. It's one of them ones where, particularly Spain and Italy, if their superstars show up, very hard to stop them. But that is a big, big if.
So who have you got then qualifying from this? What are your thoughts?
I have got Spain finishing top, Italy second, and Croatia in third going through.
Okay. I surprised myself here when I played this out because I like the look of Italy. I like the unknown quantity of them. I like Spalletti. I like just the I just like that team of momentum where he's coming in, taking no bullshit, setting a new set of rules, people not expecting him, kind of like Spain were in the last Euros in the group stage at least. So I actually have Italy as group winners here. And this is one of the groups where it's like, one team has 6 points, one team has 5 points, one team has 4 points. You know what I mean? So I have Italy, Spain,
Yeah,
Croatia in that order here when I kind of do out the results. Now, if you'd asked me to pick it in terms of like just straight out without doing the results, I would have picked Spain, Italy, Croatia. I think Croatia are at the tail end of their run. And I think that's going to become visible. And it's time waits for no man. I think it's going to be one of those stories and it's around time. But how many times have we said that about Croatia? Albania last is fairly locked, but I've got Italy to win this and all three to
you
go
have
through.
them. You must have beaten Spain that second game,
I do
or did they
indeed.
finish on
I have
seven
them
with?
nicking it. I have them nicking it.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then
interesting.
Spain, I think I have them nicking it anyway. I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact. I don't have the results in
yeah,
front of me, but
because I have Croatia losing to Spain, but then hammering Albania to get the three, and
yeah.
then maybe getting a draw against Italy last game. So interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, but
Right up football sometimes.
this is it. That's the group. I think where the interest lies in Group C, and it's England's group. England, Denmark, Serbia, Slovenia. There's not that much intrigue. England have got a fairly soft draw, although their result to Iceland maybe pointed to some question marks. I don't know. I do have faith that they will get it sorted in what looks like Gareth Southgate's final tournament as England's manager, because it does feel like now or never. And I liked the aggression of his squad choice. You know, he was answering critics of being kind of unwarrantedly loyal. And then he left the likes of Madison and Maguire at home in favour of the likes of Adam Wharton and Ezri Konsa, who probably already had holidays booked for the summer. They didn't even expect to be there. But
So we're going to Germany to watch.
yeah, well, this is it. They're not going to be doing much more, but they will be. They will be there. But having said that, look at the starting lineup: Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Phil Foden. If they perform, you could argue they're the strongest 11 out of any side in Germany. Though, again, we've said this before. It's the conversation we have around Gareth Southgate's England. But now when you look at those players, there's a bit of meat to them. There's a bit of meat on the bone. It's not just potentially you're betting on. It's proven winners at every aspect of the game. Bukayo Saka is probably, and Declan Rice are probably the two who don't have wins to their names, but they're two of the most trustworthy names you'd also have in there. Having said that, outside of their abundance of options in attack, from an elite perspective, it's very much a great 11. And even then, like, you're talking a great 9 rather than an elite squad. And 1-2 injury setbacks to key players could leave them with a very familiar sinking feeling. I do feel like they're going to go on a run here. I feel like they're winning this group, but it's an interesting one. The rest of the group is very interesting. Denmark, we're used to them kind of surprising and overachieving in tournaments in recent years. Remember, obviously, Euro 2020, after Christian Eriksen went down, they totally confounded expectations there. And they looked like they were going to go all the way for a brief fleeting moment there. The bad news is that a lot of those same names that we would have bet on in the past are still there and have lost a lot of their sheen. The name Christian Eriksen and Simon Kjaer, they don't just have the luster there. They do have Rasmus Højlund, and that is a benefit as an attacking option. Though, as United fans will know, that's not going to win you everything by itself, but it is a nice option to have, and he does have a potentially fruitful partnership up front with Kasper Dolberg of Anderlecht, which could give them another wildcard factor, though. And coach Kasper Humland has kind of shown, he's shown an ability to be tactically versatile in kind of blending that experience and youth, but I don't know if he's shown that it's worth. I think expectations back home are low for this, and they really are an unknown quantity, with their opening match against Slovenia being absolutely pivotal in deciding their fate. And again, I think the lack of players from their domestic league kind of underpins the fact that Denmark's aren't bringing true grassroots replacements and need to rely on Eriksen and Kjaer, and that is a worrying situation. Again, as a Man United man, relying on teams filled with Christian Eriksen and Rasmus Højlund tends not to go well. But then there's the strength of their opponents. Serbia are another team who kind of limped through qualifying with a weak group of Hungary, Montenegro, Bulgaria, and Lithuania, leaving expectations really low after kind of the previous group period for the World Cup, where you may remember they beat out Portugal and Ireland as well. For top spot in that group. They failed to win a match in the finals then, though, disappointed. It is their first Euros, if you count them as Yugoslavia previously, where they did play Slovenia in an unforgettable 3-3 draw. There's going to be a rematch here. And actually, coach Dragan Stojkovic, that was his 4th major finals as a player. The squad looks really aged and tired, though. You have some recognizable names in the likes of Milenkovic-Savic, Mitrovic, and Tadic, but the fact that 2 of those now play their football in Saudi Arabia and the other is 35 tells you a story. You've got Dusan Vlahovic, who's a great prospect on the bench, but he is on the sidelines because Mitrovic is still the top scorer and the talisman. While you've got the likes of Udinese's Lazar Samardzic, a potential breakout, but may not see the field in favour of Tadic. It's an interesting one where Stankovic is kind of playing for his job here, and a disappointing return will no doubt lead to big changes. And that's not the way you want to be going into an international tournament with your back already against the wall. Whereas with Slovenia, you've got kind of a free hit. They are returning for the first time also since Euro 2000 with that spectacular game against Yugoslavia. And they've a much better kind of lineup. You have Jan Oblak, the goalkeeper, is the only real star in the team. Although keep an eye on Benjamin Sesko. You may have seen him in the news. United were chasing him, but he recently re-signed for God knows what reason. It's a really weird time to re-sign your contract with RB Leipzig. But he had the likes of Newcastle and Arsenal also looking at him. They have an over-reliance on midfielder Adam Serin, whose teams will kind of look to break up the Slovakian attack. But there's a lot to like there. The last loss they had was to Denmark in the, qualifying last November, having drawn the reverse fixture at home, while they beat Portugal in a friendly in March. So come in relatively in form and confident again, and just kind of with a surprise X factor in your group to maybe calling out for it. Kento, how are you feeling England's group? Do you think they're going to top it? Do you think they're ripe for defeat? Do you think there's going to be a surprise run by one of these teams, or have they just got a really soft draw?
I mean, it's always the argument with England is that they always tend to get a soft draw, but sometimes the reason for that we have to admit is because England are among the best teams in the world.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not always been true in the past, and we've seen, oh, geez, look, they got, what was that famous easy headline in 2010? South Africa, England, Austria, State, or Slovenia, and Yanks, I think it was. I'm sure Tim Howard, or not Tim Howard, Rob Green fumbling that goal in, put pay to that fairly quickly. Look, I've never seen an England panel as talented as this one.
Mm.
But I've also never seen an England panel with so many questions from the English press over it. I can't believe, like, the amount of, like, previously we've seen them go in, they're overhyped completely because if they're England and it's England, you see the mayor, you see Gary Lineker in a talking head, you see Alan Shearer, and like we all remember Iceland in 2016, where it's like, Steve McLaren's, Iceland haven't got up too much. That's my favorite football clip. I watch
Amazing.
it every single
Yes.
time it comes
Yeah.
up. But like I said, the best player in the world is Jude Bellingham for me. Pickford, who turns into Oliver Kahn with England for his
Yeah.
country. Like, it doesn't matter how he's doing for Everton. And like again, much of the same team that reached the final in 2021 when I correctly predicted that Italy would beat them and win that tournament.
Not that you brought it up or anything like
No,
that.
no, like
He's very,
yes,
very
of
humble. He rarely mentions these things.
course. But like you do remember they were ahead in that final and then the bed,
Yeah.
completely messed themselves. I think that actually helps them here because
Mm.
it's one of the more famous kind of oxymorons where you have to lose to win your first one. And so often people used to say about Peter Wright all the time, where it's like, he's lost 19 finals. When he wins his first one, he's going to win a lot. And sure, look at him now. He's won 6, 7 majors, including 2 world titles in darts.
Mm.
There are some notable omissions. Ironically, I think Harry Maguire might be the biggest one. You talk about loyalty. I think Maguire, again, similar enough to Pickford, not too good at club level. When he could put on England shirts, I can't tell you the last time Harry Maguire had a bad England game.
Yeah.
I'd have him over like Mark A and Lewis Dunk and Henry Konza. It's like surely Mr. like very reliable for England. Having said that, I agree with you. They're top in this group. I'm wary of Serbia because I've seen a couple of people talk about them, and I'm going to label them the new Turkey. Because a couple of years ago I can't remember which one it was, the World Cup or the Euros, where everyone was like, "Listen, lads, Turkey are the dark horses. They're dark horses, lads. Just look at them." And they got to the tournament and didn't win a game. I don't think.
Mm.
Like again, on paper, you can see why some people they're looking at the names. They're going Tadic, Mitrovic, Kostic, Slavic, Luka Jovic is in there from Milan. Is there enough to frustrate England? Maybe frustrate a couple of teams into drawing their way into third place, maybe. But I'm not sure. The Danes, like you said, they're coming to kind of the end of that cycle now, and it's like possibly coming into a dark period after where they don't have what's coming through. But look, it's Ireland again. We Thomas Delaney about a million times. Someone's made that joke. But again, it's nice to have Ireland represented at this tournament. Paulson Rasmus leading the line, Ericsson in behind. Like again, hasn't worked well for United. You wouldn't know what had happened with them in their country. And I think the one thing you do need at a tournament like this is a top quality keeper. And I still have Kasper Schmeichel in that bracket, even though he's gone kind of stepped out on the line and gone off the Anderlecht. But again, still quite reliable in his country. For me, yeah, potential, but any team who's top goal scorer at this tournament has under 20 goals for his country, it's going to struggle.
Yeah.
I feel they're going to get battered by England enough for England's media to get on their back again and go, right, we're back.
Mm.
We've gone 3 from 3. We've battered the last team. We're going to do well in knockouts.
Okay, interesting. So who have you got qualifying with England then?
I have got England first. I've got Denmark in second. I have Serbia in third. And I do have Serbia going through.
Okay, interesting. I have Denmark bottom. With win this. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think I have them to draw one game against Serbia. I do have Serbia's third place qualifiers, and I have Slovenia qualifying in second. I think Slovenia are the only team coming into this with momentum, including England, but England just have the quality there that's going to batter them. I actually have England to go through 3 wins for 3, and I have them not to concede, which will come into play later on. So I think England are going to saunter through, but I think Slovenia are going to open a few eyes at this. Again, remember, international tournament, you just need to go on fire for a couple of weeks.
That's going to look either like the best call in the history of football in about 2 weeks' time, or it's going to look like a worst call in the history of
Well,
football in about
see,
3 weeks'
the
time.
benefit to picking a Slovenia to qualify is nobody cares enough if you're wrong because it's Slovenia. But if you're
Yeah,
right, you look like a
yeah.
genius. No one's going to remember it otherwise, but look, we'll see anyway. Group D kind of looked really exciting for a moment. And then we got news this week that kind of makes it a one horse race similarly. And that one horse is, of course, heavy favorites for the tournament for a lot of people, France. Obviously, having made 3 of the last 4 major finals, but they can add to that only one trophy, not counted the 2021 Nations League under Didier Deschamps, looking to match Italy and Germany, of course, with a third Euros win overall. There isn't much you can actually say about Deschamps' men. They just are who they thought they were, and they have that kind of stability that's really enviable now in international football and makes them instant contenders in any tournament as a result. Again, you got to consider how big, say, in 2018, Paul Pogba was for this side. And again, they just coast through the fact that he's just no longer there. Not a bother to them. 18 of the squad played in that World Cup final. 7 won it in 2018. 18 of the squad have played in a World Cup final, including 2022. 7 won it in 2018. So again, there's a lot going on there, and it's largely unchanged from the 2022 World Cup. With the only changes really in the starting lineup, you'd call upgrades because of aging. You have Milan's Mike Maignan and you have William Saliba coming in for the aging kind of Rafael Varane, with the only real undecided area in their team. The only kind of management Deschamps has to do is really at right back. They're really well oiled, 43-1, Tchouaméni and Rabiot giving some stability and experience, and then you've got Mbappe, Griezmann and Dembele looking terrifying, trying to feed Giroud up front. N'Golo Kante as well, fun fact, returning to the squad, so he's an option if they need to, but France look formidable. It looked like it was going to be a good group for a while as the Netherlands were in there. They have a great international tournament record, obviously, actually in Germany as well. Total Football, of course, was born there in 1978 in the World Cup final run. And of course, they won Euro 88 in Germany. Another bit of trivia for you, Dave. Let's see if you know this. Ronald Koeman is looking to become only the second person in history to win the Euros as a player and a coach. Can you name the first person? It's a tricky one. You either know it or you don't, though.
Is the Greek manager from 04?
It is not.
No. Hang on. Oh, wait, Spain. No. Oh, no, he was too old at that stage. 2012, Spain, not Del Bosque. No, go for it.
The answer is Germany's Bertie Vogts. Yeah, you either know it or you don't. It's
Don't
one of
say
those.
Ledger.
Yeah, they have a bit of uncertainty in goals. Like you have Brighton's Bart Verbruggen, you've got Brentford's Mart Flanagan, and you've got injury hit Feyenoord's Justin Bijou, all vying for contention. And then kind of with the news that Frankie de Jong is going to miss this tournament, that is huge for the Dutch, which leaves Virgil van Dijk as the only kind of elite talent in the team. And as United fans know all too well, if you're pegging a lot of your hopes on Wout Weghorst, you may be left waiting. Still, if you look through the team, there is a lot of quality there. There's a lot of excitement. If you get Memphis Depay on a good run of form, you've got a potential exciting kind of inter-style 3-4-1-2 with a squad full of now proven talent, if not absolutely elite. You've got Nathan Ake, Stefan de Vrij, Denzel Dumfries, Jeremy Frimpong, obviously coming off that Leverkusen season, and Cody Gakpo as well. So it wouldn't be a total shock to see them go on a decent run here. Koeman also has options and form for mixing up the system to kind of match the opponent. So they could be interesting, but I don't expect too much. I really don't expect too much from Poland, especially with the news that Robert Lewandowski's missing the first game because of an injured bicep. It is their 5th major tournament running, but you sense, again, it's another team where they're kind of at the tail end of a golden generation with the likes of Lewandowski and Wojciech Szczesny now aging and somewhat diminished forces and probably entering their last major finals. They've also had a lot of managerial turmoil since the World Cup, with unpopular Fernando Santos replaced in September with Michael Probierz, who helped them crawl to the finals unconvincingly in the playoffs. He managed it domestically and was the under-21 coach, so he's still kind of learning his craft, which, again, doesn't fill you with confidence there. And then you've got Austria, who are a really, really interesting project. You've got Ralf Rangnick restoring his reputation after that kind of pitiful run as Man United coach, with a revitalizing run as Austria boss since taking over in 2022. He's got familiarity with a lot of the players who would have played for him under the Red Bull group while Ragnick was sporting director there. They won 6 and 8 in qualifying, including beating Sweden twice and only lost once throughout to Belgium. They reached around the 16 and took Italy to extra time, you may remember, in Euro 2020, and now have a good reason to hope for similar or better. All of this happening despite the fact they've been missing their best player in David Alaba. He's like their Roy Keane, but there may be a bit of Keane Saipan thing going on here, or the Ewing effect, as he's got a torn ACL, so he won't be here. Ragnick plays this kind of trademark high pressing style that the likes of Klopp and Tuchel have been influenced by, and names like known to us are really high up the field. Like you've got Marcel Sabitzer and Konrad Leimer, a Bayern duo, and then you've got Christoph Baumgartner, who some may recognize from RB Leipzig, and they're behind Freiburg's Michael Gregoritsch, who's going to be playing up front, and then you've got, of course, the most capped player, Marko Arnautovic. He doesn't start much; he tends to be more of an impact sub if needed, but they do have a lot to like there. So France seem like the heavy favorites. Kento, are you picking any upsets here, or is it BAU kind of at the top of the group?
It's very similar. Like the last 10 years, these are the players to prevent France from winning a major trophy: Mats Hummels, Eder, Mario Gavranovic, and Lionel Messi. 7 Ballon d'Ors and 1 World Cup between the 4 of them. So, impressive enough. I mean, like they go in as favorites, and you can't possibly argue how they aren't able to go in as favorites, because, like I said, look at them, look at what we've seen from them in the last kind of 6 to 7 years. Like I said, the weird kind of Euros defeat to Switzerland on penalties, Gavranovic, the last minute equaliser, I think, if I remember right, and then I'm in a penalty, and Messi. That storyline was what stops them in Qatar. Like you always say, major tournaments turn to storylines, but again, they're like with England, they're topping this group. Poland, I agree, too reliant on Lewandowski at this stage, and if he's missing for one game and they get battered, it's like, well, you've got too much to do, and that's not going to end well for you. Netherlands, like again, De Jong, and also Koopmeiners has got injured as well. He's out of the squad. The Atlanta kind of force there, so a bit of a knock on the even, but like they're still enough to get second in this group. I feel defensively, like you say, you got your Van Dijk, you got De Ligt, you've Ake, you've got Denzel Dumfries, as you mentioned, going forward. Wijnaldum's in there as well, obviously still Saudi Arabia, but enough talent in there. Memphis, like you say, if he's on form. Wout Weghorst turned into prime Lionel Messi against Lionel Messi in the last World Cup, if you remember right, the 2 goals in, what was it, 90 seconds, inspired sub by Van Gaal at that stage. And like, again, Gakpo off the bench, maybe you wouldn't know what had happened. So I have them come second. Austria, I really, really like the look of again. I think it's very similar to you with Slovenia for me. Sneak, like you said, enough quality in there and sneaky good form. Wins over 4 other European Euros teams in their last 6 games, including Germany and including Serbia, and they absolutely annihilated Turkey earlier this year. So I've got them. I've got France going first. I've got Netherlands second. I've Austria qualifying as a 3rd place team.
Yeah, I've got the exact same. I have Austria and Netherlands literally just separated by goal difference. And again, I picked this before De Jong was announced as out, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Austria second. But I see there's still enough with Netherlands to still kind of cause some trouble. And again, you've got just that quality and that kind of caliber at these tournaments. They know how to be a tournament football team. So again, I think that they'll have enough to pull it out. Group E, again, a lot of these groups are, the top looks really just sewn up already, but it looks really intriguing for the minnows and how they kind of compete. It's Belgium, Ukraine, Romania, and Slovakia. Belgium, of course, you may remember in 2022, look a bit of a spent force, as even De Bruyne was admitting that they were too old at that stage. But that was the Roberto Martinez era. Now it's a Dominic Tedesco area, and he's created a really young and exciting but inexperienced rebuild team, bringing in the likes of Wout Faes, Arthur Taylor, Armadou Onana, Orel Mangala, and then Orel Bakayoko. They recorded a friendly win in Germany, which was the first for Belgium since 1910, so they have a lot of recent look in Germany, and haven't lost since Tedesco's appointment last year. He had a captaincy spot as well and kind of put his foot down and won. A bit of Mick McCarthy to him. He had a spot with Thibaut Courtois, who's left out of the Euros after appearing in the Champions League final. Unbeaten in qualifying with Lukaku back to his old ways, scoring 14. And then when you look at the lineup, it's just exciting. It's just speedy. You've got Trossard on one side, you've got Doku on another. De Bruyne should be fit and his ever reliable self. The system looks more solid than under Martinez as well. It's one of those teams, almost like England a bit, where you take away a lot of their kind of superstar generation of the Gerrard and Lampard, and how do you fit these many stars in the team, but it never quite works. Whereas now it seems a bit stripped back, but actually they look a lot better and solid, and they look more of a team. You've got Onana operating as a defensive midfielder, freeing up a really exciting, creative and pacey attack with a proven goal scorer up front with Lukaku. And I think this, again, I think of England starting under Southgate, where it's like, nah, this is the team after the team, and then actually they may turn around and overachieve. So don't be surprised to see Belgium go on a run, but who joins them is the question. Ukraine, kind of, it's just remarkable that they're here. Of course, you don't need me to tell you the backdrop of their country is that Zelensky has changed his rhetoric from when we win the war to if we win the war, and that's all happened while they've been qualifying for this tournament. It's amazing. They've also had change in the backroom staff, as you have legend Sergei Rebrov kind of parachuted in early into qualifying, but he brings a winning mentality, having won multiple leagues in Ukraine, Hungary, and UAE. They finished third in a really tough group with Italy and England, obviously just on goal difference, and had to win two nervy playoffs with Bosnia and Iceland to get here. They're going to be the youngest side in the finals, but they have experience at hand with the likes of Alexander Zinchenko, Taras Stepanenko, and Andriy Yarmolenko. So names, a lot of them you'll only hear, apart from Zinchenko, you'll only hear at major tournaments, but they're still there. And then you've got the likes of Mudryk, obviously, for Chelsea, and then you've got Shakhtar Donetsk's no, I'm not even going to try to say that name, Sudakov. Well, you've got then La Liga's Pacici, Artem Dojbik, who obviously played for that amazing Girona side up front. They've got the motivation of playing for those in the front line. I do like, not to kind of bring a serious situation into my sports kind of rhetoric and how I predict things, but I do like a team in a tournament like this who has motivation and stuff to play for. So I think that alone makes them dangerous, but they also have it on the pitch and have it on the sideline as well. We've got Romania as well, who are in only their third major final since the retirement of the iconic Georgi Hagi in the year 2000. And they have a different level of expectations, let's be honest. Despite having his son Yanis in the squad, who scored key goals in qualification, there's a lot of pressure on manager Edward Idanescu, who's the son of Angel Idanescu, who was a former manager during the kind of glory days that Edward is kind of looking to get back to. But there's a lot of pressure on how they play. They're considered really negative but effective. Top their group unbeaten, even though they won very ugly to get there. Having said that, quality is an issue. Captain Nikolai Stanciu is their engine and finished joint top scorer in qualification, but he scored 3 goals total there. And the fact he currently plays in Saudi Arabia, having transferred from Wuhan, kind of tells you about the struggle they have for individual standouts. They do have players in the Liga Serie A and the Premier League, but they're not getting game time. It's going to be a tough out slog for Romania. And then you've got Slovakia, who come in with a really great story. So basically you have Italian coach Francesco Calzone. It's his first ever job as a head coach. He was a coach with Slovakian kind of veteran and legend and now retired Marek Hamsik when the Hamsik played at Napoli. And when Slovakia needed a coach, Hamsik recommended him, and his word is carried in such high regard that he now works between Napoli and Slovakia as well. So there's kind of a unity there going on as well. And you have Hamsik also on the sideline as well there for them. They're a bit of an unknown quantity, and the only kind of name that we may recognize is Martin Dubravka, obviously Newcastle goalkeeper, although they've got a striker pairing of Lucas Haraslin, who plays for Sparta, and Robert Bosnick, who plays for Boa Vista, both coming in really in form and club level. They're really experienced and familiar with each other, but they have that quality struggle to kind of challenge beyond, the odd result here and there. But the ease in which they qualified could also mean they might be primed for an upset too. So interesting group. Belgium, obviously, looking like a fairly solid top spot, but how are you kind of predicting this will pan out?
Yeah, I love the comparison you made there, particularly with Romania, where it's like there's not a lot of quality. There's a little kind of structure where it's like, oh, we'll just grind you down, or we'll, like, we're we will just sit back and let you try and break us down. If we get one on the counter, great, because it is exactly how Ireland started at Euro 88 and Italia 90. That is what worked. That is exactly what happened. Is it on the same level? Like, again, we're Irish. We're not going to say that, but
Yeah.
like, it wouldn't surprise me entirely if they managed to pull a result out of the bag somewhere. Don't ask me where, because on paper it looks impossible. But
Yeah.
there is that kind of, it's again similar to Scotland where you have that identity. I don't have them qualifying. I do have obviously Belgium finished top. I like your call with again, not to get it serious, but the identity and the grip around the nation of Ukraine with this squad has. Like I said, it's tough for people to motivate themselves for kind of a 3 game run if you're a country where it's like, oh, what happens if you lose the first one? It's like you just know Ukraine. They have that drilled into them. And of course,
Mm.
like look at what they did for their country so far, even getting here. Given the circumstances, I against Slovakia for me are just an unknown quantity. I haven't seen enough of them. I haven't read up enough on them. But I don't have a third place team going through. I have Romania coming third, but that's purely because I haven't done an entire amount of research on Slovakia. It's one of them ones where it could be like you can tell me they finished second, you can tell me they finished fourth, and I go, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Belgium, Ukraine top two, and Romania third, but don't qualify.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've only Belgium and Ukraine coming out of this. I have Slovakia in third, Romania fourth. And again, it was a coin toss just because I like the look of Slovakia and their story a bit more than Ukraine, but I've no honest to God footballing basis. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched a million Slovakian national team matches heading into this. A lot of this is I'm taking World Soccer's word for it on those two teams. So you can go either way. Let's get on to Group F then. And it's Portugal, Turkey, Czech Republic, and Georgia. Georgia, of course, will just get them out of the way. The only team in the competition making their Euros debuts, having come through the Nations League, kind of lucky losers route. That's all absolute scenes when they beat Greece on penalties. They're riding the wave of having a superstar in Napoli's Kvaradona, obviously, who won the Serie A title and MVP of Serie A in his first full season with them. They're young and can be exciting to watch as a result. They have former France international Willy Sagnol is managing in his second ever senior head coaching job. They can be a bit of a slog to watch, though. They kind of average the lowest possession of all qualified teams. Unsurprisingly, given the way they came and the fact that it is their first finals during qualification, as they sit deep, leaning on a strong defense, proving difficult to unlock. So don't expect to see them get many hidings. But you sense they're just kind of happy to be there. They open against Turkey and Czech, so if they're going to get an upset, like they can get it in the first 2 games. It's not the case where they're going to get a hiding at Portugal, which is going to kill their confidence. So you never know. But like, yeah, no, realistically, I think they're making up the numbers. I think Czech as well are an interesting one. They did have a really good result during the week, but they're dealing with the really strange scenario of following up qualification for a major finals with finding a new coach in the meantime. Like since they qualified for this, Yaroslav Silhavi is stepping down following a kind of belabored and much criticized campaign that saw them really limp through after a series of injuries, controversies, and fallings out with key players. And instead, you've got Ivan Hasek taking over, and they've actually gone undefeated in friendlies since. The system, because they have a new coach who's only coached friendlies, remains a total mystery. As a result, having managed no competitive games before they play Portugal, what a time to open it up. Though he welcomes the likes of out of favour Antonin Barak and Vladimir Kufal into the fold again to support linchpins Thomas Suchek and Patrick Schick, who again, Schick, one of those players that you only ever see or hear of in international tournaments, but he is back, he's still good. And Czech should be interesting as a result, bit of an unknown quantity. Turkey, where mine and many people's hipster picks to do go on a run in Qatar, and they duly flopped. So I can't ever trust them again. I have trust issues. I've been hurt before, and I've been hurt before by Turkey. They are led by Vincenzo Montella, so they're winning me back kind of bringing in an old former Fiorentina player. Since last year, they looked kind of impressive again in qualifying. They topped their group. They surround their captain, Hakan Kahanoglu, with a lot of talent, cutting their teeth at the likes of Real Madrid and Juventus. Keep an eye out for Keenan Yildiz feel this, for example. He briefly took Federico Chiesa's spot at Juve, but on merit after signing from Bayern last season, and can be really dangerous up front. They've had some exciting results since beating Croatia and Germany, but is there a case of them being like the Irish rugby team, kind of showing a lot of promise in the run up to the tournament and then flopping there? Again, I've been hurt before. They lost 6-1 to Austria in March, which is a really, really concerning result. They lost 1-0 to Hungary in March, and we beat Hungary, they're shy. So they like to play quick one-touch football often on the counter, but defence is a concern without a consistent back 4-0 down. And Portugal, look, we're coming a day off experiencing what this Portugal team like. They're a bit of a new look Portugal, and if I told you Portugal were a new look, you'd probably think, oh, they got rid of Ronaldo. But no, they actually made him better somehow. Again, Ronaldo not doing much in Saudi again, because what is he going to do but be better than everyone else? But again, as we saw last night, he still very much has it in small doses. And again, an international tournament, he may be primed for a run. Roberto Martinez has kind of revamped the team and expectations and his own reputation after kind of flopping as Belgium manager, winning every game in qualification to the point that their loss to Croatia last week was their first since his January 2023 appointment. They scored more goals in qualifying and conceded less than any other nation. Ronaldo bounced back after looking ready for the scrap heap in Qatar with 10 goals in qualifying, and for the first time found a way to make him, Martinez, for the first time found a way to make him and Bruno Fernandes click in the same lineup. It never worked, even when they were at the same club. You add known Premier League kind of commodities and winners in the likes of Bernardo Silva, Ruben Diaz, Diogo Jota, and João Cancelo, as well the likes of Milan's Rafael Leao, one of my favorite players on the planet these days, to the mix in their prime, and you have a potential under the radar contender on your hands. Again, though getting significantly less under the radar. They play 4-4-2-3 with so many playmaking options that they overwhelm opponents, as the 9-0 win over Luxembourg, who, remember, once beat Ireland and aren't the same Luxembourg that we once know. That showed. And look at their strength and depth. Some of the players that they can call upon at any time that aren't guaranteed a starting spot. João Felix, Goncalo Ramos. Do you remember the buzz about him in Qatar? Diogo Dalot, Nuno Mendes, Pedro Neto, Mateus Nunes, or the Ligue 1 player of the season, Vitinha. They can call upon them at any time. They're not necessarily spotted. Portugal look fucking scary. Kento, your thoughts on Group F?
They're scary on their own if you just listed Pepe there. They've the oldest tournament, they've the oldest player of the tournament, they've the oldest captain of the tournament. You can put the two of them and just have them play five-a-side football, Pepe and Ronaldo, and I still think Portugal get through this group with ease. Again, they're one of them. It's one of them ones where no one expected it in 2016, and it's like, oh my god, Portugal, and now it's like, oh my god, Portugal, and they're just cowering in fear against them. They're really, really like. There's no real questions in there at all. Where it's like there's no weak point. You can't point to them and go, "Oh, we can get them." Oh God, we can get them in the last 10 minutes of the game when they're tired. No, we'll just bring on Bernardo Silva, Felix, Vitinha. Like it's just like you said, scary is the right word. Again, Turkey burned so many times before, like in Qatar, where again everyone was like, "Oh my God, Turkey, Turkey, Turkey!" It's like, yep, they went and had a in Turkey at the tournament. They couldn't. They just looked old and ragged and just horrible. Like Georgia, like there you go. You got the flair of Portugal. That game against Georgia is going to be, I feel, a tough watch if Portugal don't score in the first 20 minutes, because otherwise it's not going to be fun to watch. And then the Czechs, like again, Czechs had a very solid tournament in Euro 2020, where I correctly predicted Italy to win the tournament. Like again, you say Patrick Schick is a bit of a major, like, oh, young sure of a major. He's part of Leverkusen, so he's had a fairly solid season. But again, I this one's simple enough for me. Of Portugal, have Czechs in second, of Turkey not going through in third, and Georgia rock bottom.
I have the exact same order, but I do have Turkey going through. Okay, so there are group changes. For the record, for me, I've Croatia, Austria, Turkey, and Serbia as my third place qualifiers. Okay, so now we're gonna watch at it a bit, and we're gonna get a bit high level and talk you through kind of our run to the final. And I love the way that I have it worked out, because if it works out exactly my way, which obviously it's not gonna, but my way has an absolute banger in around the 16, Portugal against Croatia, and I've Portugal advancing in that, which absolute banger. Please, please give us it.
I have the exact same. And I'm also after realizing, looking at my digital war chart, I actually do have Turkey going through. So for disregard what I just said about
Meanwhile, apart from that, in the round of 16, I've got Spain edging out Hungary. Let's just say that goes to penalties, just because whatever. The rest is more as you'd expect. England
there's
beating
always one.
Austria, but also if you look at kind of a game that England mess up and cause a natural controversy, Austria is a dangerous one. Germany is through against Slovenia. Netherlands edge out Ukraine. Italy beat Turkey, and Belgium. Knockout. Sorry, Belgium go through as well, and France coast against the Czech Republic. That makes me nervous though when I look at my quarterfinals, because I'm like, it's definitely not going to happen because there's no surprise team there. So again, maybe Austria to beat England might be one that, as I'm saying it, I start to feel like that feels more likely it can happen. But there are four unreal ties. I've got Germany to beat England in a really tight contest that goes to penalties. I've got Portugal to win another banger against the Netherlands. I've got Belgian hearts getting broken against France, and I've got England winning a squeaky bum contest against Spain. Which sets up semi-finals of France England, and that's one of those. Is this actually the final in the semis? And I just can't see any way for England to get past Mbappe. Kind of a repeat of Qatar in Southgate's swan song as manager. And meanwhile, Germany's renaissance comes to an end with a tight loss to Portugal, setting up a rematch of Euro 2016. Except this time Ronaldo plays, and this time, as you may remember, in Euro 2016, Portugal was shite. Don't say it too loudly. They were shite, but they made the final and somehow won it. Ronaldo plays, Portugal are good, and this time it's La Revenge as France take the trophy and take their revenge. Hopefully setting up like a rubber match down the line in maybe the next World Cup final. But France-Portugal is my final, France to win. Kento, what are you thinking for the rest of the tournament?
Okay, so the last 16 for me, I've got Germany beating Denmark handily enough. I've Italy beating Scotland handily enough. Spain take care of Turkey. England and Austria, I also had, again, think it might be dodgy. Think it might be penalties there, but England are good at penalties now, which is really annoying, except for the Euro 2020 final where I correctly predicted it. Portugal Croatia is another sticky one. I feel I just have a feeling that it might be 1-2-0 extra time kind of thing. Croatia's kind of shut down. My two, oh no, I've one upset. Sorry, I don't have two others. Netherlands beating Ukraine. I have Serbia knocking out Belgium in the round of 16.
Ooh.
I think there's your upset because, like you said, there is always one where it's like, how the hell did that happen? And I have Serbia beating them. France easily enough to take care of the Czech Republic. So that gives me quarterfinals of Germany, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Serbia, France, and England and Italy in a repeat of the Euro 2021 final where but this time you mentioned revenge. There's your revenge. I've Italy
Okay.
losing to England in the quarterfinals. I have France taking care of Serbia. Serbia don't get their lightning strike twice. They have their cup final against Belgium. They win that, and you know the cup final theory. Portugal beating the Netherlands, as I said, and as you mentioned, scary. Germany, Spain, any tournament, any time, unbelievable game. Spain coming out on top, knocking out the hosts. So that gives
Interesting.
me an Iberian semi-final of Spain against Portugal, which
Nice.
so
Banger.
tasty, so tasty. And I have Portugal winning it.
Okay.
I also have Portugal getting to the final. The other semi-final for me is France against England.
No, don't
This
do it,
England team,
Kento.
this England team is going to win a major tournament. We have to accept that. Look at them. Point me to the weak spot. You talk
When
about.
they play Iceland.
Sorry. Yes. Okay. Apart from Iceland, point me to the weak spot.
Kobe Minu.
Yeah.
Adam Wharton's in the squad.
Huh?
Gareth Southgate as a serious manager. Do I need to go on?
You can go on all you want, and I point out that you've got to the Euros final. They probably were very unlucky not to get further in the World Cup in Qatar. Again, the penalty where Harry Kane. Okay, I said England were good at penalties. I forgot about it for that one time, but sure. So England are going to win a major tournament. It's just going to be the Nations League in September
Okay. Okay.
because ça rentre à la maison. Football's coming home, and it's coming home to France. I cannot see them being stopped. They beat England in the semi-final. They beat Portugal, and they probably get a trophy that they probably should have gotten before. Since like this France panel should have more than just the World Cup to their name, if you get me. But yeah, Portugal, Ronaldo's last stand probably as a on an international stage, and when they've played him perfectly. That move to Saudi Arabia, ironically, taking all the pressure off him because he's able to save himself from the European tournaments and the international tournaments. That game against Spain is going to take too much out of them for me. So I have France taking over England, taking the final.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Right, so we both have France beating Portugal in the final. We both got different, slightly different routes, but we got to the same end. Interesting. We're going to go into bets now. And again, if betting isn't your thing, you're not missing anything. This is the closeout of the show. So thanks for joining us. Enjoy the Euros, and we'll catch you next week on page 180 for our first episode of the Dragon Boys of Summer. If betting is your thing, hang on, as we'll give you some tips that we have for overall outrights for the tournament. The odds I have came from Paddy Power. So I'm going to call them out. I've got 10 bets in total. Okay. I've got 3 bets alone on England's group. Okay. I've got England to win every game to 0 at 15-2. I've got Slovakia to qualify at 17-10, and I've got Denmark bottom 7-2. So that's kind of how we bet this, okay? You do your wall chart, you map everything out, and then you go, what looks interesting? Where is the value? And how do I kind of get value from these bets there? And again, everything I've mapped out, that isn't like kind of looking at the numbers. It's not looking at the odds. It's not looking at how much I win. That's genuinely what I think is going to happen. So I'm calling it. Ukraine finishing second in their group is at 9-5. Croatia going out at the rounds of 16 is 17-10. Switzerland finishing bottom of their group 11-5. I've got for what odds, Paddy? I've got a bet on Scotland to be eliminated in the group, and England and Germany reach the semi-finals at 5-1. I've got Germany, Portugal, and England to win all their group games 20-1. What? Are you serious? Stop giving me money, Paddy Power. If you kind of map out a route to the finals as well, if you're doing a top scorer bet, look at who you think is going to score the most goals. So who is the softest group, who is the most flashy attack, and who's playing the most games, because obviously that's the best way to score goals. And again, do they have a proven goal scorer there? The answer for all of those is Portugal. Again, they have the group where they could score goals. They are scoring goals. Their attack looks delicious. And Ronaldo is scoring all their goals, as we saw in Ireland last night. I've him top scorer at 12-1, and I've France to win at 4-1. Though the fact that Kento also bet on a France-Portugal final, I'm seeing as very interesting. So I might go back and revise that with a France-Portugal final. Kento, they're my bets. Have you got any value in any of the odds you've looked up?
I don't know if it's much value, but I do have a couple of interesting ones. I think Spain to win Group B and Albania to finish bottom is 13-8.
Nice.
Lump the house on it. I've got one or more. This is a nice power price that came in. I don't know if this thing was today when we record, so I don't know if it'll still be available. One or more goal in every match.
Okay.
I think
No
is
nil-nils.
I can't see any nil-nils really, generally.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
either a team is poor enough that they're going to let even the worst teams in, or someone will go nuts. I've got England, France, Germany, and Spain each to score 10 or more goals in the tournament.
Ooh.
7-1. Plenty of power in those attacks.
Yeah.
Germany may be the one to let me down there. What have I got? I have got Germany first and Scotland second in that group, as I call, 7-2. I think that's solid enough odds. I have Antoine Griezmann to do the most assists, which is, I think, was 12. I think 12-1. I got it at.
Tasty.
I'd love to look at that bet when you're looking at, because you mentioned like it's a bit of a risk because France do have that kind of trifecta behind Giroud. You got Mbappe, Dembele, and Griezmann, but I think Griezmann, we saw the kind of transition he's made from the kind of number 10 to kind of a deeper role in the last few years, particularly for France.
Don't hate it.
He kind of had to do that because look at what was around him. So
I don't hate it.
I got Griezmann as the most assist. I was tempted to do a France Mbappe double for top goal scorer, but I just don't have the confidence in Mbappe scoring them all. Like I could see Giroud getting 5. I could see Mbappe getting another 5. Just one of them ones. But yeah, they're what I have now. I will have a couple more by the time the show goes out. I'll probably tweet them just in case.
Nice. So check it out. There's a good plug for your Twitter. Kento CCFC on socials.
And again, I called Italy to win Euro 2021. I called the Springboks to win the Rugby World Cup. I called Luke Littler to get to the World Darts final. No one cares who won the World Darts final. No one cares who I picked to win it. No one cares about the Super Bowl. Famously, nobody gives a flying fiddlers about the Super Bowl. No one ever bets on it. So look, I'm on a roll, lads. Just Just remember that, yeah.
If you ignore the stuff he gets wrong, Kento's on a really good roll. I also looked that up. France Portugal final 13-1, so not bad odds. Love a few quid in it. There's not a small bet. You've got nothing to lose, and they
Sure.
do look like the two best teams coming in. Kento, thanks a mil for joining us as always. Very exciting. Kento CCFC on socials. Kento, got anything to plug? And if you don't, just name something that you like in general, or that you're watching, or that you're interested in. What's going
It's
on?
going out before Sunday, isn't it?
It is indeed. It's going out
So much
tomorrow,
for Rhinos
Thursday.
in Castlemilk College, Sunday, 2 o'clock. I think we actually have a barbecue as well because to celebrate Father's Day. I think
Ooh.
we definitely have something going on anyway because we're actually sponsored by Rascal's Pizza this year. Other pizza companies aren't available, other brewing companies aren't available, sponsorship reasons.
We're not the BBC.
So
Sponsor who you like.
yeah,
It's grand.
yeah, so yeah, we have a bit of an event there. We have a home game at 2 o'clock, and it's time to get back into the NFL kind of mood. It's not that far away. 12 Sundays till we hear Scott Hansen again. Time to get back in mood. So if you fancy lovely weather, bit of grub, American football, what more do you want on a Sunday?
West Dublin Rhinos. Where can we find them on socials if they want, or
At
just in
Dublin
general?
Rhinos for most of them. I think we're West Dublin on one of them, but yeah, at Dublin Rhinos, and you just Google us, you'll find us fairly easily. We're pretty well known.
They're kind of a big deal, guys. Kento, always a pleasure to talk football with you. Can't wait. We'll be chatting more. Keep an eye on Twitter as well. And we'll be kind of keeping you updated on how we think things are going to go. Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on Page 180.